and welcome. It's episode 26 of Abbott and Costello Meet the Podcast. They said it couldn't be done. I'm Jerry Shario, and I would like to introduce to you, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the man without whom none of this would happen, author of the annotated Abbott and Costello, actor, director, writer, composer. Oh yeah, he does that too. You know, people say nothing is impossible, but here's a guy who has turned nothing into a fine art, Nick Santamaria.
Thank you so much. Wow. It makes me very happy that I actually suggested that concept to Jerry Seinfeld. I've been getting a check every single week. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any writing on it, but it kind of inspires my creativity. Okay. Jerry, how are you, my good friend?
I'm doing well, sir. Doing well. How about yourself?
I am also doing well, sir, which actually rhymes with seltzer, which comes in bottles, which were sprayed by Bobby Barber on the set of this movie that we're talking about. How about that? How about that road?
I'm impressed. I am impressed.
I did not make that up, folks, before that happened. That just happened spontaneously. In fact, something else did. Let me just get some paper. Hold on. I'm better now. Hi, everyone. And I'll bet you are. Here we are looking at episode number 26. I can't believe it. Honestly, we're already into our second year and 26 films. That means there are 12 more to talk about before we start getting into the esoterica of their careers. And when I say there, I'm talking about our friends Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, as Bud Abbott would say. Costello! But I did want to bring up something very quickly before we got started, because I did forget to talk about it last week. And it was something kind of important, and it leads into the beginning of this film. Last 2 weeks ago, we did Africa Screams, their second independent film. They made the film for Nassar Studios, the brothers Nassar, Eddie and William. And they only went with Nassar, and Nassar wanted them because they knew Abbott and Costello made a profit. So they got the brothers to agree to produce a short film, 20-minute film, called 10,000 Kids and a Cop. It's a promotional film for the Lou Costello Jr. Youth Foundation, and it stars probably Lou's best friend in show business in Hollywood, and that was William Bendix. And he stars as the cop, and he's given a tour of the center, the youth center. Bud and Lou, of course, appear in it, and there's one scene where this little girl sings to Lou, "I don't want him, you can have him, he's too fat for me." And Bud is just cracking up in the background, and it's worth the price of admission. But speaking of which, this was offered free to theater managers to show before their films. And instead of paying for the film, they were asked to make a donation if they could. And so they made a little money off of this promotional film. And it's on the DVD or Blu-ray, Abbott and Costello Rarities. It's there in, right? Complete.
Yep.
And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And Bill Bendix, as usual, is just fantastic. Okay, so I got that out of the way. That was produced. And then they went in and did Africa Screams. But then it was time to go back to Universal International. So we're talking about Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. Now, let's talk about the title first, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Jerry sent me an email just a few minutes ago saying, okay, let's do a podcast about the longest title ever in the history of films. Well, basically, it's not, because the actual name of this film is Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. No Boris Karloff, nothing like that. If you go by the opening titles, which is what you should always do, it just says Bud Abbott and Lou Costello Meet the Killer. And then the next title is Boris Karloff, not and Boris Karloff, not with Boris Karloff. It's the name is Meet the Killer. The reason it is, well, let's go back. This was written originally by radio writers Hugh Wedlock Jr. and Howard Snyder. They were very famous, actually, for writing for Jack Benny before those four guys came and just changed the game completely. And that was, what's his name? That was Oh God! Now I'm asking myself to remember Benny's writers, the four writers: Al Goodman and John Hyven and Milman von Slaven. They
Yeah,
were all
those
very.
guys. Yeah.
They were all good. All of them.
Don't
They
worry.
did.
I'll go back in and put their names in here, so don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, these were early Jack Benny writers. Hugh Wedlock Jr., born in Brooklyn, like all great comedy minds, 1908 to 1993. And his partner, Howard Snyder, 1909, also in New York, till 1963. He died in a car accident when he was 53 years old. But they did make history together. They wrote for Jack Benny. They wrote for Red Skelton. They wrote for Eddie Cantor, Jack Oakey, and that comic legend, Giselle McKenzie.
Whoa.
We'll just let that settle in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. One of Jack Benny's supposed squeezes, you might say. They did that famous episode together where they played on the violins. They do Getting to Know You. Dun, 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 dun. It's a great clip and hilarious. He does it again later on with a little girl. Toni Collette, what's her name? I had lunch with her in Los Angeles in the 1980s. She happened to be a client on an answering service I was working at the time. I was like 19. And I found out that she was the little girl that played with Jack Benny, and she invited me to lunch, and I picked her brain like crazy, and it was fun. We had a really nice time. But anyway, Giselle McKenzie was worked with Benny, and she was a regular on Your Hit Parade. Good singer, really good singer, Canadian girl. And John Grant was also part of this, and you see him throughout. He's here and there. John Grant now, rather than what he did in the past, where he took complete burlesque routines and slipped them in to the working script. Yeah. Now it just seems like Grant is like sprinkling little things along the way. You know, it's a little more subtle. It's less, it's not, let's stop the movie so we can do this routine. Yeah. It's just, it's sprinkled into the dialogue. You know, the whole thing where they're doing the culprit and the murderer and all that, that's all John Grant, you know? Yeah. It's great. So we have those two writers with John Grant. At Universal, they had the great Charles Van Enger on the camera, and everything just looks amazing. Oh, yes. You know, film noir. It's film noir at its best. And that cavern scenes are they're breathtaking. They were truly breathtaking. Okay, so here's the story. This is what I wanted to get at. The Lou Costello Youth Foundation is floundering. Bud and Lou put in $250,000 of their own money to get it started and up and running. Unfortunately, by the time they started this film, there was a mortgage of $80,000 that the two of them just couldn't pay. And so get this. This is why I don't like Universal International. Universal, you know, picture them in a meeting. You know, if Lou loses this foundation, he's going to look bad, and it's going to look bad for box office. So we might as well help them out with the money. And then somebody said, you know what? Bud and Lou are going to make the same amount of money anyway, you know, no matter what happens. All right, so we won't give them any money. Had nothing to do with the kids, had nothing to do with the poor people in Boyle Heights that might have needed a little help. Universal International. Yeah, that's all true. And I want to read you something. I want to read you something from an interview Lou did around the same time, and Bud, and it broke my heart. So I'm going to just tell you what they were dealing with. Our reporter found Costello sitting quietly by himself. Lou's round face was long for a change. He was unsmiling as he talked about the Lou Costello Jr. Youth Foundation and the $80,000 he and Bud must raise to pay off the mortgage. If they don't come through, the building and 3-acre property will be sold. The comedians are trying to arrange a title match in Los Angeles between lightweight champion Ike Williams and challenger Enrique Bolanos. Prospects are bright that the bout will come off in May, but there's still a possibility that it'll fall through. And if it does, said Lou, we can say goodbye to the foundation. Should the mortgage be foreclosed, 10,000 needy kids will be the losers. Bud and I just bit off more than we could chew, Costello said. The community chest hasn't given us a nickel. We asked the racetrack people to help us out with one of their charity days, but so far they haven't. No one in Hollywood or Los Angeles has given us a hand. I get more support from my hometown, Paterson, New Jersey, than from the city where the project is located. So that's what they're dealing with at this point. And from all accounts, Lou was very depressed while making this film. He actually had a nervous breakdown towards the end. He told the director, Charlie Barton, that you're directing a dead man. He didn't feel well. His spirit was broken. He was doubly angry at Universal for not helping out. I mean, it was just a terrible time.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know it watching the film.
No, that whole story is news to me. And I never would have guessed that was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And, just to add proof to the pudding, he had another bout of rheumatic fever as soon as they finished this picture. He was in bed for 4 months. So, yeah, poor Lou. They were back on top. Bob Hope was number 1 at the box office. Bing Crosby was number 2. And Our Boys were number 3. Not bad. And that's after, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And even Mexican Hayride. It was one of the big hits of Universal, even though it went over budget and all that. So they were finally on top again, and then Lou got sick, and they didn't release another Abbott and Costello movie for another year. And that was Foreign Legion, which we're looking at next. So anyway, getting back to the movie we're looking at, Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. Now, it was supposed to be Easy Does It, a movie for Bob Hope, a comedy mystery. Yeah. His name was supposed to be, I think, Easy Davis, and he was like a radio guy and a movie star, and he has a nervous breakdown, and he has to go to this resort, which then he meets the murderers and all this stuff. So it was going to be a Bob Hope movie. Universal decided to, in 1946, to start turning it into an Abbott and Costello movie, and they budgeted it low. They got underneath that $750,000 budget thing. They actually spent $745,000 for this movie. So It was underneath, which means it was sure to make a profit. And they actually made more than double. They made $1.8 million from that. So yeah, it was another big hit. You work with Bud and Lou, you make money.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this was Charlie Barton's last with the boys until they asked him to come back for Dance With Me, Henry, their last film. So yeah, this is their last of the golden age of Charlie Barton movies. And of course, Robert Arthur is the producer. And he was heard to say, yeah, Lou always wanted a good detective movie, and we never had a good script, but now we do. And he's right. It is a good script. I don't know about you, but I had to go back 3 times to when they explained the murder and why and who and what. I never understood it. Even when I was a kid, I was just like, oh, yeah, whatever. Let's just watch Lou fall down. I had no idea. But now I totally get it.
Oh, yeah.
After watching it 3 times in a row. And we have Karloff getting special billing. Now, I want to talk about Boris because I'm a little miffed at him about this.
Okay.
His snobbery. A lot of people think that he came right off of Arsenic and Old Lace, and he did come away from that a millionaire. They gave him points in the show, made him a fortune. But anyway, he did not come from Arsenic and Old Lace. But when Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was being made, they asked him if he wanted to be the monster. He said, no, I don't want my baby made fun of, blah, blah, blah. But he did agree to do publicity, and meaning publicity, him standing outside a theater looking at the poster. And he made like snarky jokes about it, as long as I don't have to sit through it, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say it that way. As long as I don't have to sit through it, that's fine. But he came around, didn't he?
Yeah.
He just came from a flop Broadway play called The Shop at Sly Corner. It lasted 6 performances.
Whoa.
Way to go, Boris. And Abbott and Costello looked really good to him after bombing out on Broadway. This looked awfully good.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Bud and Lou split $113,000, and Boris made himself $20,000 for this cockamamie small role.
Yeah.
And Alan Mowbray, who was in it twice as much, he made $5,000. So Hollywood caste system. Karloff had the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karloff is not exactly, it's not honest, this whole thing. Karloff is prominently displayed in the title, and he's hardly in the movie. So
Yes.
It's one of those things. And I kept thinking the whole time I was watching it, Lugosi would have been so much better as the Swami,
One thing I did notice on this last viewing, as spoiler alert, I guess. If you haven't seen this movie, why are you listening to this? But anyway, at the end, in the caverns, when the killer, masked and slickered and everything, is coming after Lou, the voice is somewhat muffled, understandably, because of the mask. But it sounds to me like they're trying to do Karloff.
There's an accent involved, definitely.
Yes, it's this red herring that they're throwing into it because his name is up there in the listing. So
Oh yeah, no, it's true. It's true. In fact, there's another thing in that scene, and it's funny. I thought of it the very first time I saw this film. I made this opinion, and I had the same opinion watching it last night. Mm-hmm. When Bud twists his ankle in the cavern, yes. That's done to build up suspicion. So when Lou is accusing him later, he has a reason. You know what I mean? So it makes sense. But again, it's also another Bud Abbott. I'm going to go look for a job for you, and you do 10 routines with other people. One of those movies. I mean, Bud is prominent in it, and they are a good team in it. But Lou is on his own so much in this movie. Excellent script, excellent performances, wonderful supporting cast. So let's get to it. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Karloff, born in London in 1887, passed away in 1969. He was at least a quarter East Indian. That's how his dark complexion. Both his mother and his father had Indian blood in them. And he was a victim of, racism as a kid, and they made fun of him at school and all that stuff. But anyway, I just mostly wanted to talk about his snobbery with the boys and the fact that not only did he come for this movie, but he appeared in what I consider to be kind of their worst, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But boy, money talks. Money sure talks. Yeah, Karloff made 16 films in 1931, and only one of them is remembered.
Wow, 16? Can you guess?
16 films.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was the one. And that started everything for him, even though he'd been working for 30 years, 20 years. All right, so let's go. Here we go. We are talking about another animated opening. Mm-hmm. Bud and Lou are writing their names or painting their names on the screen, these two little cartoon Bud and Lou. And you hear very familiar music. And I think, Jerry, I'm going to have you play the Frankenstein music into the whodunit music. It's amazing that's how they save money. It's amazing. And then all through the movie, the cues and, you're expecting Lon Chaney to come out.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yes. Yeah.
So funny. Okay. So here we are. And it opens up on a rainy night and on a dark road. And we see the headlights. There's a sign, Crandall's Lost Cavern Resort. And Mr. Crandall lives there, played by Harry Hayden. And I was just thinking, it says underneath, in a Lost Cavern Resort, fishing, golf, da-da-da, it has all these things. I was just thinking, if this were a Mel Brooks movie, it would say fishing, golfing, murder, blah, 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 he would use that kind of subtlety.
Yes.
Right. But anyway, we find out where we're going. And it turns out Bud Abbott plays Casey. He is the hotel detective, and he looks great. He's got his derby on. He's got a nice suit on, and he smokes Lou's cigar throughout this entire movie. And I found it fascinating because he's really going to town on this cigar. you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And he was a cigarette smoker. He wasn't a cigar smoker. But anyway, he's asking reporter Murray Alper, one of my favorites, usually a cab driver, but he's asking him about who's coming, and it's Amos Strickland, one of the great lawyers there in that part of the country. And he's showing up for some reason, and we find out later on why. So Mr. Strickland shows up. He's a very pompous actor by the name of, not the actor, but he's playing a pompous character,
Yeah.
Nicholas Joy, who is just amazing. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So he comes in and he demands service, and who happens to be his bellboy but Freddie Phillips. And Freddie Phillips happens to be our boy Lou. And Lou creates havoc in true Jerry Lewis fashion by turning the golf bag upside down so all the clubs fall out, and he smashes his glasses with the cane, and it's terrible. He really, screws this guy up, and this guy has a temper. So they call the hotel manager out, and his name is Mr. Melford. Is that it?
I think so, yeah.
Lou keeps calling Mr. Smelford. But anyway, he's played by one of my favorite actors, and his name is Alan Mowbray.
Oh, yes.
And he plays the hotel manager. And he was born in London in 1896. His real name is Alfred Ernest Allen. I don't know how he got Mowbray. But he served with distinction in World War I, won the military medal and the Croix de Guerre from France. He began as an actor and stage manager in 1922. He got to New York in 1923 and started doing Broadway and all of that. Went to Hollywood, made his first movie in 1931, God's Gift to Women, starring the notorious Frank Fay, the first modern-day stand-up comic, and also a Nazi sympathizer. So I love Alan Mowbray, and I love when he plays pompous characters especially. He plays a character in Hollywood Hotel, 1937. If you could see it, see it. He's absolutely hilarious. He was also wonderful in My Man Godfrey with William Powell. He was in My Darling Clementine. He played the old ham Shakespearean actor. Just fabulous. On TV, he was Colonel Humphrey Flack. That was his TV show, 53 and 54. That was revived in 58 and 59. So Roseanne Barr was not the first to do that. And later in life, he played a role that I played in high school. Carl Reiner's show, Enter Laughing, which is hilarious, about his early days trying to act. And he works with this ham sham actor by the name of Mr. Marlowe. And I think it was Jose Ferrer in the movie. Alan Mowbray played it on stage, and he must have been perfect. And I played it in high school. I was like, oh, please, that kind of. So he did that. And again, I talked about this a few weeks ago. His daughter, Patricia, married Douglas Dumbrill in 1960 when Dumbrill was 70 and she was 28.
Oh.
So, there was a little bad blood between them. And he was also big with the Maskers Club. The Maskers Club used to be on Sycamore Street in Hollywood, and I used to go there, like on Saturdays, and I would sing, for the people who were there, and it was so much fun, and it was great. And right up there above the bar was a picture of Alan Mowbray and Lou Costello. They were fellow maskers, and later I found out that Mowbray is the one that got Lou in, sponsored him. So anyway, that is their whole thing. And so Alan Mowbray, the manager, fires Lou at Mr. Strickland's advice, or he orders it, fire this idiot. And he fires him, and Lou turns around and just threatens him enough to make him a suspect in his later murder. Okay, so he fires Lou. Lou gives him this, every dog has his day, you'll see, and I'll get you. And he turns around and trips over the bags, and it's just great. Nobody did that better than Lou Costello.
No.
Making a bold statement and turning around and walking into the wall. He's just nobody better. So Lou is fired, and he later has a little change of tact. And he goes to Strickland's hotel room, knocks on the door, sees it's open, sees Strickland in the chair in repose. And Lou starts apologizing, and he's very nice and all this stuff. And eventually he finds out that he's been murdered. He's dead. blood. So yeah, he's there, and there's a, you know what I'm talking about, and there's a handkerchief on the floor next to the body, and it's got blood stains on it. Lou, kind of absent-mindedly, after the killer tries to get it, he puts it in his pocket. So Lou has the handkerchief, much like he had the glove in Who Done It.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yeah.
And the killer had to get it and all this stuff. In fact, this movie was supposed to be a follow-up to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, thus the name, Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. Oh, by the way, it was supposed to be The Killers. But back in 1946, Universal made a movie called The Killers, produced by Mark Hellinger. Mark Hellinger had since passed away, but his wife was threatening to sue Universal if they used killers in the title.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think she might have won. I think it stretched out for a long time. But anyway, it turned out to be just Killer. So anyway, there's weird stuff with this movie, getting it going. But anyway, Lou finds the dead body. He's got the bloody handkerchief in his pocket. And we start to meet the red herrings. And this movie is filled with red herrings.
Oh, yeah.
First, let's talk about the detective that's called him, James Flavin, which is the perfect Jerry Lewis name. James Flavin. Flavin. He was part of my childhood, James Flavin. He was everywhere. Born in 1906, same year Lou. Passed away at the young age of 69. He was born in Portland, Maine, thus his New England accent. Mm-hmm. He attended West Point, played football there very successfully. In 1929, he replaced an actor who fell ill. It was a summer production in Maine. That's what they did. Stock companies would go up during the summer. And he had to replace an actor. It was like kind of an emergency. And he did it so well that they asked him to come back to New York with them. And that started his career, his acting career. He was just filling in. So he went to Hollywood in 1932. His first movie was a serial called The Airmail Mystery. Married the leading lady, Lucille Brown. And he shows up in King Kong, the original King Kong. Mm-hmm. And he's very prominent in it. You see him all over the place. He's one of the survivors. I'll share it with all of you. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right? How many times have we heard that? He did a lot of TV, over 100 roles on television. He was a regular on a show called The Roaring Twenties. That was with Dorothy Provine. And died of a heart attack at the age of 69, April 23rd. That's a few days ago. And his wife died 17 days after he did. So they were together forever. So James Flavin is there to solve the crime. And they suspect Lou. They suspect Freddie Phillips. Everybody heard him threaten Mr. Strickland. He was there discovering the body. And so we start meeting the people who come out of the woodwork who are under suspicion. One of them is Swami Talpur, which is Boris Karloff. He makes his first appearance, a nice entrance out of the hotel room. The camera comes up to him and promises more than it delivers. So, yeah, he comes out. What's going on? They're suspicious. But we do have, on the plus side, we do have Lenore Aubert again from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And she says in an interview that Lou loved working with her and vice versa. And she was so happy that they asked her back again. And they did. They requested her. So she came back as the femme fatale. And she has, of course, her seduction scene with Lou. And none of us are surprised by that. But let's take a look at the red herrings and get this out of the way. Roland Winters, someone I had a personal encounter with, believe it or not. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1904, passed away in 1989 at the age of 84. He died at the Actors Home in New Jersey, a place I might end up someday. You never know. But anyway, he did 6 Charlie Chans as Charlie Chan. He was the last of the movie Charlie Chans from the original series, all right, the Monogram series.
Yeah.
So he did the last 6. Some critics thought he brought new life to the series, but I thought it was funny that he was 44 years old, and Key Luke, his number 1 son, was 2 years older than he was. One of those Chinese mysteries. I don't know.
Yes. Ancient Chinese secret. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then he shows up in Citizen Kane as a reporter. Gets no credit. And My favorite Roland Winters performance and movie is called West Point Story with James Cagney, Virginia Mayo, Gordon McCrae, Gene Nelson, Alan Hale Jr., and Roland Winters. And he's so funny with James Cagney. So, okay. He was also in Minnie's Voice, the original Broadway show, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. But I'm walking up 8th Avenue with my cousin. I'm 17 or 18 years old. I look up at the corner, and there waiting to cross is Roland Winters. Now, I knew him from, a million movies, but I had just watched West Point Story the night before. And this is before VCR, before everything, 1980, 1977, whatever it was. And I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Winters." And he looked at me, up at me. I was taller. And he looked frightened. And I said, No. I said, "I have to tell you, I'm a big fan." And he goes, "How do you know me?" I said, I got news for you. I watched West Point Story last night. And he smiled and he shook my hand. And it was just so lovely. It was just such a wonderful experience for a young guy, who loved old movies. So anyway, nice. Roland Winters turned out to be a great guy. And you know what? Give his Charlie Chans a chance. They're not great by any means, but he is kind of fun. He's different. You'll see. Okay, the other one I wanted to talk about was the long, thin girl there. Victoria Horn is her name. She was born in New York City in 1911, passed away 2003 at the age of 91. She was born to, I had to write this down because her parents' names are great. Her father was Ignaz Hornstein, and the mother, Mary Louise Schoenwetter. She was a Schoenwetter. She wet her Schoen.
Oh no!
Yeah, look, it's I know it's there because it's shown. Schoenwetter and Ignaz. She had a father named Ignaz. I'd kill. That would be great. She was a graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, but we'll overlook that. And she shows up a 15-year career starting in 1944. Her probably biggest, best-known role was as Myrtle May Simmons in Harvey in 1950. She's wonderful. Yes. And I did that show in high school. I played Elwood. This is a big high school show for me. Yeah. A big episode. She was also in one of the weirdest Three Stooges shorts ever made, possibly the most weird. Cuckoo.
Yes.
Yes. She is one of the girls on the train, and Larry is doing his best Marlon Brando imitation. Kemp is drinking this stuff that makes him see a giant canary. Yeah. And Mo isn't funny. So it's it's the whole thing. So she's in that one. And she married Jack Oakey in 1950. And they stayed married until he passed away in 1978. Wow. Their home, Oak Ridge, they bought it in 1944 from Barbara Stanwyck. It was a horse ranch. And it was on Devonshire Street in Northridge, California. Passed it a million times. And now it's a park run by the city, Oak Ridge Park. And the house is still there, intact. So, she married Jack Oakey, one of my favorites. They also had the Jack Oakey Victoria Horn Oakey Charitable Foundation. They would underwrite lecturers on comedy, and deserving theater and film students would get financial grants. And it's still going on today. Wow. Yeah, how about that? That's great. Anyway, I wanted to go with that. Harry Hayden, who plays Mr. Crandall, the owner of the hotel, the one with the daughter that we don't care about. He was born in Nova Scotia in 1882, died in 1955 at the age of 72, played in Canadian theater. His first movie, 1936, I Married a Doctor, it was called, and I'm sure it wasn't about him. He ran the Bliss Hayden Theater in Beverly Hills for years. That was his wife, Lila Bliss. So they ran the theater together. It was a little theater. And three of their alumni, Veronica Lake did her first work there. Debbie Reynolds. Okay. And, are you ready? Yep. Marilyn Monroe. All worked for Harry Hayden and his wife. And he became one of Preston Sturges' stock company. He's always good in Preston Sturges movies. And he had a recurring role on the Stu Irwin television show, Life with Father, one of the first sitcoms with a star. Final film, The Desperado in 1954. Quite a career, Harry Hayden. But anyway, so these guys are all coming in to see what happened, that Mr. Strickland was murdered. Everybody's suspicious. Everybody. Roland Winters tries to steal a briefcase. This one tries to get the handkerchief. Blah, blah, blah. It all, whatever. And Bud's trying to figure things out as the detective. And of course, Lou is Lou. Okay. Red herrings galore. We have young lovers. Now,
we barely have young lovers.
I was going to say, I have it here. Our lovers, Gar Mann and Donna Martell, and right next to it in bold letters, I wrote bland. So anyway, looking at these guys, I just want to say that they mean nothing. They have nothing. They disappear for hours at a time. And the girl is the daughter of the owner, who's a suspect, and she's kind of suspicious herself. But you know what? If you cut these two characters out, you wouldn't miss a thing. Nope. So I don't know why they always felt they had to have these two characters that are never developed. It's weird. So anyway, they decide that Mr. Smelton, he called it. That must be, his name is Mr. Melton. He goes, well, Mr. Smelton, Meltons. That's very funny. But anyway, this movie is more like Whodunit than Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Even with the presence of Karloff and all that, it's just it's a good murder mystery. It moves. It's funny. It's got great performances. And Percy Helton alone is worth the price of admission.
Oh, yes.
Isn't he great?
One thing this one does do is it goes a little darker than, say, Whodunit. I mean, anytime you're carrying more than one corpse around a hotel.
This movie was banned in, was it Norway or the Netherlands? It was fully banned. Yeah. They didn't see it until 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. It was banned in a few places. And in one country, I forget which one it was, they cut out anything to do with the dead body, which means the movie must have been 5 minutes long. It's all about dead bodies. And it's surprising because you're right. It's very dark. And although Lou gets scared at the bodies, he's very comfortable. He's rolling them around. He's sitting at a card table with them. And he's not going... it's him being an adult and actually coming up with good ideas. This is a very different film. This is a very adult Abbott and Costello film.
Yep.
Did I ever tell the story about my dad when I asked my dad if he'd go to the Abbott and Costello movies when they opened? And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he goes, "Are you kidding?" I said, "No. Did you go when a new one opened?" He goes, "No, I was in my 20s. These were for kids." Isn't that funny? That's how he looked at them, Anyway, I think that's unfair because they're not just for kids.
No.
This is a murder mystery, and I mean accent on the murder. My God.
Yeah.
All right. So Mike Relia comes in, and he's another suspect, and he doesn't last very long. What I liked is when Roland Winters leaves the room during that scene where they're all the guys, suspicious people come in to look at Mr. Strickland, the dead body. When he leaves, he calls Lou Pighead, but he accents the P, so he spits in Lou's eye. And Lou rubs his eye and just goes, ping, like that. And it really works. It really works. He's really great at putting exclamation points at the end of scenes.
Yes.
So Mike Relia, he says his gun is missing. So they want to get into Mike Relia's room to search for the gun. They want to look for the gun. So Bud can't open it with the key. So
the wrong key.
Try this one.
What? Where'd you get that?
Red.
Red who?
Red Skeleton. It's a skeleton key.
Skeleton.
Opens up any door.
They go in to the room and they find Relia dead. And while they're searching, at one point, the door opens and it's Karloff. And Lou opens the door, and Karloff just looks at him and starts doing this Lugosi stuff with his hands, and he hypnotizes. You didn't see me. I wasn't here. You didn't see me. And he runs away, and Lou is just completely, hypnotized. And when Bud leaves and says, "Close the door," he gets inside and closes the door. So he's on the inside. But anyway, that's all worked out. And so we have Mike Relia, who they have to get out of that room. I forget why. Something. Just go with me here. They put him in a laundry basket, and they cover him up, and they're going to bring him, out of the way to the card room, actually, to get rid of him. I know I'm skipping an awful lot, but a lot of it is very similar. It's a coherent story, an actual story. So they find the gun in Lou's bed, actually. So it's Lou's room. They find and they have to get rid of it, and they have to get rid of Relia. So what I love is there's one point where they're called by James Flavin, the detective, because he has to question him about something. And as they're going to the room, Bud is like, "No, I want you to, be careful what you say." And Lou's like, "Don't worry about it. I've done this a million times. I'm fine. Don't worry about it." He walks into the room, immediately falls to his knees, and starts pulling at the detective's pants. "Please don't do it. Don't hit me. Don't hit me with the rubber hose. Please don't hit me with the rubber." And he goes on and on. It's so funny. It is so funny. Again, building up to something and then just falling flat. And, I'm thinking, those radio writers, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Okay, so we find out at that point that Lou is definitely a prime suspect, and he has to stay at the hotel. Even though he's fired, he has to stay at the hotel as a guest of the state. And you know what that means. He's going to take every advantage. And the very next scene, he's in a barber chair, getting a haircut. He's getting a manicure, a shoe shine, blah, blah, blah. The phone rings. He asks Bud to hand him the phone, the whole bit. And Bud's looking at him like he wants to strangle him, But it's funny. He takes full advantage. He even uses the old joke with James Flavin.
No, I've had enough of you, Inspector. I don't want any more of this from you. After all, I'm a citizen and I'm a taxpayer. And it's my taxes that buys you your gun and your badge. And it's my taxes that also pays you your salary every week. You're working for me. You're nothing but a public servant.
So what?
Give me another bottle of water.
Okay.
That whole bit. But anyway, what is this? Oh, I love this joke. Lou's in the barber chair. He's being catered to like crazy. He calls room service and orders something. And it comes up and he says to Bud, "Can you spell California?" And Bud says, "Yeah." And he goes, "Good, sign the check." Can you spell California? Lou's character is more subtle in this one. He's quieter. You believe him. You really believe him in this one. It's a really nice performance. Bud too. Bud as the detective.
Yep.
He's terrific. I think it's another Lou Costello movie with strong support from Bud. There are many scenes that Lou plays alone, and there's some scenes that Bud plays alone as well. But they're not comedy highlights. You know what I mean?
No.
So it is another one of those kind of movies, but Bud really comports himself well, and he looks great in a derby with a cigar. And at one point, by the way, when they're in the room, the knock comes at the door, and Lou thinks it's Lenore Arbert, and it turns out to be Bobby Barber. It's almost like one of their outtakes, that they used in the film. Oh, here, there's a joke he does when Lenore Arbert comes in to seduce him. First, he throws Bud out, right? And he says,
Gee, you're pretty.
I bet you say that to all the girls.
Yes. It don't go over so good with the boys.
You're sweet.
All right, and then they go through the whole thing, and this is where John Grant comes in and starts tiptoeing around the script. The whole thing about the culprit. Who's the culprit? The murderer. Yeah, but who's the murderer? The culprit. That whole thing. He does that with Lenore Arbert and then brings it back with Bud. Are you going to start that again? This woman, we find out, was suspected of poisoning her husband originally, and which is why she wanted to meet with Mr. Strickland. This is all stuff that's going to come out at the end. But anyway, she orders champagne, without telling Lou, and it shows up, and she pours the champagne. And yeah, but she tries to get him to drink it at one point. She says, "Won't you drink it for little Angela? I wouldn't drink it for big Angela." So the cops are trying to get there as soon as possible because they know that she might be poisoning him. And they see him with the glass up in the air by his mouth and assume that he drank it. And they grab him. Bud grabs him and throws him into the bathroom. "What do you got?" "Epicac." "Okay." He runs in and he's pouring it down Lou's throat. You don't see any of it. You just hear it. And it's hilarious. Yes. And then Bud comes out, "Well, give me something else. Give me something else." And Lou looks like, if it were color, he would be green. And this happens like 4 or 5 times in and out of the bathroom, giving him, vomit-inducing liquids. And finally, they find out that he didn't drink it. But boy, you could definitely see Lou's illness during that time. Anyway, so then Karloff earns his $20,000 in the following scene. They decide that Lou has to take the brunt. He has to take, the rap for the murder, and he has to disappear. That will solidify the fact that he killed Strickland and he ran away, or he did himself in, whatever it is. So it didn't work with Lenore Arbert, so Karloff says that he's going to do his bit. So he shows up at Lou's bedroom, and he's going to hypnotize Lou into committing suicide. First, Lenore Arbert had made him sign a confession, which was very funny. She writes out, "I am the man who killed Amos Strickland. Here, sign it." And he signs it. So she has that. And what they were going to do is plant the thing on Lou, and Karloff will get him to kill himself. This whole scene is, it's funny. It really is funny. Yes, $20,000 worth? I don't know. Well, "You'll kill yourself if it's the last thing you ever do." That's his big line in the movie. But it turns out everything he suggests, Lou screws up. And I actually do like this scene a lot. He puts the noose around his neck, and asks him to hang himself. And he falls backwards, and the bed collapses, and this and that. Everything he tries is wrong. He goes to the window to jump because it's a high jump, and he says, "Now go ahead, jump." And he jumps backwards back into the room. It's that kind of a scene, and it's very funny and very frustrating for Boris. "All right, why don't you pick your own way to die? How would you like to die? Old age?" So anyway, $20,000 later, he's unsuccessful at getting Lou to kill himself. But I do like Boris's line about having the will of an idiot. Yeah, he won't commit suicide because he's got the will of an idiot. He won't do it. So anyway, dead bodies are piling up. Mike Relia is dead. Then they find Mr. Milford, who is the secretary of Strickland, who is also dead. So there are 3 dead bodies, 2 that Bud and Lou have to get rid of. They put it in the laundry thing. They take it down to the card room, and they were just going to set them up in the card room and leave them. But unfortunately, our friend Percy, I can't do it. Percy Helton. And we all love Percy Helton. He's down there. He works down there. And boy, is he attracted to Lou, because Lou is dressed as a maid. He's even got the fringe, bangs under the hat. Percy Helton is a horny little guy with a hunchback. And let's talk about Percy. I'll tell you a little bit about him. He was born in New York City in 1894, lived to 1971. He was 77. He appeared in vaudeville at the age of 2 with his dad, who was British. He was a music hall guy named Alf Helton. So they worked together for early years in vaudeville. He made it to Broadway at 10 years old, where he became a juvenile actor, worked all the time, went to World War I with the acting, the show business performers, won the Distinguished Service Cross, began in films in 1915 when he was 21. Did mostly stage in between films, lapsed into character roles when he started looking the way he eventually looked and sounded, I should say. And he's mostly known for playing the drunken Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street. Fellas gotta keep warm. He was in The Stooge and Scared Stiff with Martin and Lewis. He shows up in Groucho Marx's worst movie, other than Skidoo, A Girl in Every Port. He's even in White Christmas. He's in Spook Chasers with the Bowery Boys. In fact, this was post Leo Gorcey, and he was Mike Clancy. He was Louis Dombrowski, only like a different version.
Yeah,
a little raspy voice Hunchback version. He's in Jailhouse Rock with Elvis Presley. Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte with Olivia de Havilland, Betty Davis, and Joseph Cotton. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He shows up. And his last movie, Legend of the Northwest, 1978. So that's our pal Percy Helton. And he falls in love with Lou, with the female Lou, and becomes a real pain in the neck. And they do all those jokes about playing bridge. Oh, no, your partner's a stiff. Oh, no, this hand's dead. All of those things. It's great. And I'm sure, again, I pictured John Grant. So, okay, let's get to the meat of the issue here. Lou goes back to his room. Now, Lou has set up booby traps all over his hotel room, and they're dangerous. They'll knock you out. One is a full dresser falling on you from the ceiling. But anyway, while they're in the room, a voice comes over the loudspeaker, and it says, "Meet me at the lost caverns and bring the handkerchief." That kind of a thing. So Bud and Lou and the detectives plan on going to the lost caverns, where there is a bottomless pit among the stalagmites and stalactites. Do you ever wear stalactites in a play?
Yeah, I just did, as a matter of fact. Yeah, this last one I did, yeah.
Are those hanging upside down or upright side up? I don't remember. But, Stalagmite 17, Billy Wilder. All right. Stalagmite 17. All right, so they go to the cavern. They can't come along with him because that means that the guy won't meet up with Lou. He'll just go away. So the detectives tell Bud and Lou, "You go ahead, and we'll be back here and we'll check on you, whatever." Bud twists his ankle. "Oh, wow, this is terrible. I got to go. Bye." And I thought to myself, when I was a kid watching this, I thought, wow, he twisted his ankle to get out of the picture so he can become a suspect. And then later, Lou starts accusing him, and I'm thinking, well, that's probably why they did it. Otherwise, it would have been nice to see the two of them deal with this cavern. Lou is hanging from a rope by the bottomless pit. Bud could be pulling him up. The guy could hit Bud behind on the head and blah, blah, blah. Instead, they just got rid of Bud. And, that was kind of a sour note for me in a sequence I like very, very much.
Yeah.
If I could forget that end of it, Lou is great. He's just great. And this, sorry, kids, it would have been a good solo film for him. But this whole thing with him hanging from the rope, the whole idea of a bottomless pit gives me the willies. I have a thing about heights, about falling. So this was a tough one for me. And the set, the mat work, and everything else about this scene is just 100% perfect and wonderful. The long shots where you see him and he looks so small, in the background, it's incredible. It's like it's an A picture. It's like it's a much bigger budgeted picture. Mm-hmm. So what happens? Oh, let me talk about the turtle. I want to talk about the turtle.
Yes.
Lou is in the cavern. It's dark. He lights a candle and he puts it down on what he thinks is a rock, and it turns out to be a turtle. And the turtle starts walking, and of course Lou sees the moving candle, and we know how Lou reacts to a moving candle. And that starts a funny scene that had already been done with our gang, and I'm sure in silent films ad nauseum. But it is kind of cute, but it leads to something disturbing. There's a slide. It's a slippery slope that takes you into the bottomless pit. And Lou doesn't know about it until he sees the turtle go down and then down the bottomless pit. And all I can picture is this poor thing just falling and falling and falling and not knowing what the hell is going on. And it's like, I wish in a way it was Touche Turtle, so he could have stabbed Lou. Um, oh God!
Yeah, you see, my first thought was, well, at least he had a candle on the way down. He could see where he was going, you know?
But there's no bottom to see, you know?
No.
Yeah. I knew people like that. Okay. I told him to start working out, you know? So anyway, Lou gets stuck. He gets stuck in the hole that leads down to the bottomless pit. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like in a crater situation. And his chubby little body is the cork that's holding the water in. So the killer, who is masked and has that voice and all that, he puts the water towards Lou, and Lou tells him that the handkerchief is in his room. So the guy says, I don't need you anymore, drown. And he heads for Lou's hotel room. So the cops come and save Lou right at the right time. Mm-hmm. And everybody ends up at Lou's hotel room. And Bud got there first, and they find him on the floor underneath a full dresser. That's all I'm saying. Now, what kills me about this scene, and I don't know who's responsible, which writer is responsible, but to me it's just brilliant and so funny, is him constantly accusing Bud of being the murderer.
Yes.
When people are coming in, I found the murderer. It's him. He's the murderer. It's him. And he's telling everybody. And then at one point, when James Flavin is actually talking to everybody seriously, Lou thinks that he's part of it. And he says, oh, it's very simple. You see, everybody. And of course, James Flavin pushes him out of the way. But Lou is very funny in this scene. He really owns it. Yeah. And Bud is like, what are you doing? Would you stop telling them I did it? I didn't do it. So anyway, now I can explain the whole plot and why all these murders took place and everything else. Okay, so here we go. Everybody listen up. Come close to your radios. Here we go.
Okay.
Amos Strickland, okay, he's the lawyer, big-time lawyer, came to the Lost Caverns, right? Nobody knew why. And all of these red herons showed up, and they all had dealings with Strickland. So here's what happened. They got word that Mr. Strickland was writing a tell-all book. Now, all of these red herrings had a sort of spotty backgrounds, I should say. And they were all afraid of what Strickland was going to write in the book. Now, one of them, we don't know which one, called Strickland at one point and said, listen, you can't do this with the book. Strickland didn't tell them that he wasn't writing a book. He didn't know anything about it. But he didn't tell anyone. Okay, he was going to show up at the hotel and everybody else was going to show up, and that's when he was going to find out what the hell was going on. So it turns out that his secretary, Milford, was behind all of this. He told everybody that Strickland was writing the book, then they were all going to be exposed, and that Strickland was blackmailing them when it was actually Milford. Strickland had no idea what was going on. So they were all tired of paying for it and all this stuff, so they were all showing up to meet Strickland and get it over with. In the meantime, Milford is there too, but Milford had a partner working at the hotel, and that's the main murderer. He's the one that we don't know about. We find out about Milford because he dies. He gets killed by this guy. And it turns out, should we do it? Should we do the spoiler?
Yep, let's do it. Let's do it. Like I said, if they haven't seen the movie, why the heck are they still listening?
Yeah, exactly. Or else just fast forward 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's Alan Mowbray, the manager of the hotel. He was the one responsible for killing Strickland and everybody else that might have exposed him. And so he pulls out a gun and he's ready to go. And Lou says, are you going out the French doors? And he goes, yes. And he goes, okay, fine. And he opens the door and a polo mallet comes down and hits him in the side of the head. And he's a little woozy, but he's not knocked out. And Lou walks up with a tiny little hammer and finishes the job. So the murder is solved. It's Alan Mowbray. They take him away. And I love the moment with Bud when Bud is leaving. And Lou says, I knew it wasn't you all the time. And he goes, I know. And he's walking out and he almost puts his arm around Bud. And he turns to us and he says, nice fella. I don't know. I just like that. I just really like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, James Flavin is congratulating him and saying, "How did you do this? This is wonderful." He goes, "Well, I put in, all the booby traps and everything." And Flavin is standing there and he opens up a closet door and a boxing glove comes out and knocks him out. And Lou looks down and says, "I must have forgotten about that one." And the end. And it's the end music from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, including the final cast and credits. Da, 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 da,
Yep.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Anyway, to talk about this film, because I want to talk about it because it wasn't the one that was on the back of my hand that I knew everything about,
Right.
that I'd seen at a young age and grew up with, It showed up. Let me just tell you something about New York very quickly. When I was growing up in New York, Sunday meant the Bowery Boys. And unfortunately, it was a 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock time. The movies are close to 70 minutes long, so we're missing a good chunk of the films. But we watched them week after week after week, and then watched them again and again and again. And to this day, I love the Bowery Boys. I have all their films, and I watch them very, very, very often. Let me put it that way. I think Leo Gorcey and Huntz Hall are much funnier than Martin and Lewis. I really do.
Yep.
So when Abbott and Costello came on at 11:30, I was already getting a little tired of seeing the Bowery Boys over and over and over. And we're talking like 5 years in a row of Bowery Boys. So when Abbott and Costello came along, it was like a holiday. It was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But all those years before, I wasn't privy to Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. I wasn't privy to One Night in the Tropics or It Ain't Hay or any of those others that just didn't show up in the package. So this one is not a back of my hander. This is one that was kind of new. I still think of it as new. When I watch it now, I'm just not as familiar with it. And some of it's a real surprise, too, because it's really good. It's a good movie. It's a very good mystery. Like I say, it could be a Bob Hope movie. It could even be a serious mystery. So you have a very, very strong foundation. You have Lou giving a very, I don't want to say mannered, but controlled performance, a good acting performance. And I want to say Bud too. When Bud is dealing with the detectives and doing his work and whatever, he's terrific. He really is terrific. He's not on an equal scale with Lou in this one, but he is really, really good for what he does. And then you've got that great supporting cast. I mean, every one of them is a gem. So I don't know. I was mostly concerned about the stuff around the movie when I was doing my research. The whole thing with the foundation is just, it's criminal. It really is.
Yeah.
To give you an example, St. Jude's Hospital for Children, right?
Right.
One day, Danny Thomas decides he wants to do something. He promised the Lord that he would do something, create a tribute to St. Jude. So he does. And everyone in Hollywood, not just Hollywood, all over the country, everybody's giving, everybody. It's one of the richest hospitals in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Thomas, an A-lister, someone who didn't come from burlesque, somebody who wasn't a short, fat guy who did slapstick,
Yeah.
They didn't do it for Lou. They didn't do it for Bud. That's Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
That's Hollywood. That's why I don't live there anymore. So there's that. But on a good note, to really end this on a good note, Bud and Betty adopted their daughter Vicky that same year, right? A few months after they finished this film. Vicky had already been living with them for a couple of years, so it was almost like a foster child that they ended up adopting.
Nice.
And yeah, she was a loving daughter, and it's great. So Bud Jr. had a sister at this point. So your opinion, Jerry, I want to turn to you. This movie, we've got a mystery. It's a whodunit style mystery. What do you think?
Well, as I had mentioned to you before we started recording, this movie had never been very high up on my list of favorites for whatever reason, to the point where I really cannot tell you the last time I watched it. It's been a very long time.
So it's almost like new to you.
In a way, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched it for this, it was like discovering this new movie. It was very well written, as everything you've said. The performances, the supporting cast, everything. I have to say, I loved the final gag, the blackout gag of the punch, the boxing glove coming out of the closet, and I thought that's the punchline. That's the punchline of the movie right there.
That's my partner, folks. Yeah.
That, and then in the cavern, another bit, and maybe I'll play this. Lou's, making his way through the caverns, and he discovers the echo, and so he yells something, he gets the echo, and then he hums, and nothing happens. And he goes down another tunnel and hums, and nothing happens. Then he hums a third one, nothing happens. Then all of a sudden, they all come back in harmony. All beautiful. At the same time. It's a great gag.
I've never seen it anywhere else.
No.
And it works like a charm. It's just gorgeous.
And one thing that I owe to you, because until we did, was it Wistful Widow, I think? Bozo.
You heard him? Did you hear him, Dr. Bozo?
Yes. He's mentioned in this movie as a character, like in the health spa at the hotel. He does something and he's leaving, and Lou says, "Thank you, Bozo." And
thank you, Dr. Bozo.
Yeah. But yeah, it's well worth your time. I will put it that way. It's a good, solid murder mystery with some funny moments.
There are some funny moments in this movie. I agree with you. I love when Bobby Barber comes in. He's expecting Lenore Aubert, and he walks in, and Bud is hysterical. He's like, that's it. And then Lenore shows up, and Bud stops laughing. But yeah, Lou said that he loved working with her. And you could tell if you watch the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein outtakes, the smile on her face when she's working with Lou is just worth the price of admission. It's just fantastic. She's having a great time. Yeah. And there was another scene I noticed. Oh, Alan Mowbray. Towards the top, okay, when they're in, not in the lobby, but the next scene when they're in a room.
Yeah.
Alan Mowbray is called Mr. Smelton for the first time. And Mowbray ad-libs, Melton. You know that Lou is doing it. He does it to him a couple of times in the movie. He calls him Smelton. And Lou is kidding around. And at one point, it looks like Mowbray is about to laugh. And if not laughing, you see his face. Because Lou's doing the shtick right up in his face. So it's like it's like the second or third scene. If you want to go back and look at it, it's very funny.
Yeah.
But Mowbray, man, he did 3 Sherlock Holmes movies. Yeah. And the one Terror by Night on the train, that's the one I think of most of all. He was great. Mowbray was just great.
Oh, yeah.
I love him. So that's it. That is episode number 26. I am getting a lot of questions about what we're going to do once we finish with the films. And if we've discussed this before, forgive me, but, we're going to talk about the TV shows. We're going to talk about the radio shows. We might talk about other comedians inspired by Abbott and Costello. We may talk about just a classic comedy film that we both love. It could be that. So if you're just enjoying the ride, it's going to continue. It's going to be there.
We may talk about the weather. Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll just keep going.
Yeah, we can talk about the weather if you want to. It's a little boring here in Florida, but yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, it's hot. It's hot and humid. Oh, it's hot and humid. What's today? Hot and humid.
Today's different, though. It's humid and hot. There you go.
I like both of their teams.
Yes.
They were terrific.
Loved him, hated her. Yeah.
Well, I never experienced her, but still, I did enjoy Ben-Hur, and it helped my muscle aches. Oh wait,
yes.
that's Ben Gay. Sorry. All right. I had my suspicions about him. Okay. This has been wonderful, Jerry, as usual. And yes. I want to tell everyone, because I didn't do it last time, and this is very, very important, gang. Please subscribe and like. If you're enjoying this, just hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds. Subscribe. I need subscribers. If you want this to last, please subscribe to my channel. Okay? It's right there. If you're listening on YouTube, it's right there in front of you. And we would so appreciate it. Because this is why we're doing it. We're doing it for all of us.
And I'm going to slip something in here. Nick, plug your ears for a minute or two here.
Okay, hold on.
Also, if you really appreciate this and you don't happen to own a copy of the annotated Abbott and Costello, first of all, why not?
Yeah.
Second of all, buy yourself a copy. The book, Nick wrote it with Matthew Coniam, and they go back and forth, writing about the different movies, and just so insightful and so well written. And I wouldn't say this with Nick around because, it would give him a big head. But still, it's an excellent book. It's kind of what this whole podcast is based on. So, yeah, go buy the book.
Excuse me one second. Hello, Macy's? Yes. Nick Santamaria here. Yes. Could I get some larger hats? Yes. Just send me a bunch of them. Thank you. I've outgrown the other ones. Thank you. Bye. Okay. I'm done.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah, and there you are. Thank you, Jerry. That was very, very kind of you. And, I went on the British Amazon to read the reviews there, and they're almost better than the American ones.
Wow.
So it's good. It's an international success.
Nice.
Just like Sonia Henney. All right. I like that one-liner comedian on skates. Sonia Henney, young men.
Of course.
Sonia Henney? No? Okay. All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to release you and have a wonderful couple of weeks until we come back with Foreign Legion. Not Abbott and Costello in the Foreign Legion. Foreign Legion. And it's a good one. All right, Jerry, always a pleasure. Always.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, and thank you so much for being here with me. I certainly appreciate it. And I appreciate every one of you listeners out there, even the ones that write in to insult me. You have no idea. There's such critics about, like, if I do a bad impersonation or, get a fact wrong or whatever. But mostly, I have to say, they've been very, very kind, very gracious, and they've been sending positive reviews. And so we thank you, all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful, safe, happy couple of weeks, and we will see you soon. Take care.